Name's Hank Galloway. Been running freight up longer than most dispatchers been out of high school. Folks like to think once you've logged 1,000,000 miles, you're untouchable, like experience is some kind of shield. Truth is, it just means you've had more time for bad luck to find you. And sometimes it ain't bad luck. Sometimes it's somebody trying real damn hard to mess with you. That morning I rolled out of Odessa with a clean reefer and 30,000 pounds of Goodman HVAC unit strapped down tight. Drop was in Phoenix, nothing fancy, just a straight westbound run on I-20. Dispatcher said weather was clear, no holdups, no DOT randoms flagged on the route. I topped off the tanks at the Flying J off 338, hit the road early to beat the worst of the sun. But you can't really beat Texas heat in July. You just learn to respect it. I had 2 gallons of water in the cab, a fresh pack of smokes, and a thermos full of coffee that tasted like burnt oil. All part of the deal. Truck was running fine at first. Cummins engine humming steady at 1,600 RPMs, oil pressure solid, all gauges in the green. I keep her tight. Ain't one of those guys who runs their rig into the ground. If you don't respect the machine, it'll kill you faster than any curveball the road can throw. I set the cruise at 68 and settled in, arm out the window, letting the wind do what it could. Didn't last. About 45 minutes out, somewhere west of Monaghan's, I caught the temp gauge flickered just a tick higher than normal. Not much, maybe from 195 to 200. Still safe, but it was weird. This truck doesn't run hot. She's got a new radiator, belts checked weekly, and I wasn't climbing any grades. Outside was cooking, sure. Pavement looked like soup, but it wasn't anything I hadn't driven through 1,000 times. I flicked the dash, out of habit more than anything. Sometimes the sensors glitch, but it stayed there, just a needle width over normal. I kept an eye on it. 10 minutes later, still sitting high. Didn't rise more, didn't drop. Just held there, like it was trying to get my attention. That's the thing about trucks. They talk to you if you know how to listen. Pulled into the Loves just before Pyote. Needed fuel anyway, figured I'd give her a once-over while I was stopped. Grabbed a bottle of Gatorade, said hey to the cashier, guy with a faded arm tat that looked like it used to be an eagle, now just a blue smudge. Walked back out, popped the hood, and that's when I saw it. Right there, behind the grill, jammed in tight between the fins and the radiator, was a piece of cardboard. Not some shredded bit of road junk either. This was cut clean, straight edge, about 2 feet wide, wedged in like a plug. My stomach went cold. No way that got there by accident. Cardboard don't just fly off a trailer and land perfectly in your front grill, stay put through 70-mile-an-hour wind and block your airflow without moving. I yanked it out.
Whole thing was warped and soft from the heat. Smelled like it had been cooking all morning. Backed up, checked under the cab, around the tires, engine bay, nothing else off. Fluid's good, no leaks. But I couldn't shake it. I mean, I've seen plenty of road weirdness. That bird stuck in there, plastic bags, even a lost hubcap once. But this was placed, and not for fun. I stood there a minute, sweat pouring down my neck, trying to think. Could someone have done it back in Odessa while I was fueling? Or maybe back at the yard? But I'd done my pre-trip, checked everything, just like always. That thing wasn't there when I left. I'd bet money on it. I started running through names in my head, folks I'd ticked off. Maybe someone pissed about a load. Maybe one of those contract guys who think we're stealing their lanes. Hell, could have even been a damn prank. But this didn't feel like a prank. This felt like someone wanted that engine hot enough to seize. And in this kind of heat, with a load like mine, wouldn't take much. Finished fueling, ran inside, asked the guy if their security cams covered the parking lot. He just shrugged, said corporate handles footage and they only keep it 3 days unless something happens. I didn't push. Didn't figure a cardboard square counted as something happening in Love's terms. Back in the cab, I cranked her up. Temp was already dropping without the obstruction. That told me everything I needed. Someone had tried to choke my engine, slow cook it from the front like a damn brisket. And they knew what they were doing. Had to know the truck, or at least the airflow pattern. Amateurs toss sugar in your tank. Pros go for slow kills. Rest of the ride that day, I couldn't relax. Kept watching mirrors, checking the gauges every few minutes. Thought I caught the same black Ram truck pass me twice, once around mile marker 37, again near the rest area before Kent. Could be nothing, but I noted the plate partial. TX, 2JX, something. Might have been different trucks. Could have been heat messing with me. Still didn't sit right. So here's what I want to know. You ever had someone try to kill your engine on purpose? Not talking about some random vandalism. I mean real planned sabotage. If you have, what'd you do? I rolled out of that Love's with the cardboard shoved behind the seat and my head spinning like a busted fan clutch. I told myself I'd drop the load, hit the yard, and figure out next steps from there. Maybe call in a buddy I trust, run it past him. But that heat, it cooks more than engines. It gets in your brain, makes you see things that might not be there, or worse, makes you miss things that are. I pushed west toward Pecos. Just me, the highway, and a full sun looking to melt everything in its way. Kept one eye on the mirrors and one on the dash. Temp was holding, no more drift. No flutter, just steady like it's supposed to be. That should have calmed me down. Didn't.
Truth is, once something feels off, nothing feels right for a long time after. Pulled into the big TA at the edge of Pecos, right off exit 42. Lot was half full, mix of reefers, flatbeds, and a couple of those hotshot guys with their lifted dualies and overcompensating trailers. I swung into the diesel lane, started fueling, and that's when I noticed it. A black Ram 2500, parked 3 pumps down. Same color, same tinted windows, same aftermarket wheels I'd seen earlier when it passed me on I-20. Now, I'm not saying every Ram truck looks the same, but you spend enough time out here, you get a feel for details. This one had that matte black bug deflector up front, a busted passenger mirror with duct tape holding it in, and a weird little sticker in the rear window. Looked like a playing card, maybe a joker or something. I clocked all that in a second, just standing there holding the fuel handle. But the guy wasn't fueling. He was just sitting in the cab, engine running, AC on, windows up, no movement, no eye contact, just staring dead ahead like he was waiting for someone or something. I finished fueling, walked inside to grab a coffee and clear my head. Inside was the usual scene, guys standing in line half asleep, some local cowboy types buying chew, one kid arguing with his girlfriend over Bluetooth. I nodded to the clerk, a girl with orange nails tapping on her phone like it owed her money. Coffee was burnt and thin, but it was hot. I took it black and walked back out. Black Ram was still there, same position, same idle, still not fueling. Now, I ain't one to start drama in a truck stop, but something about this guy just didn't sit right. It was too still, too calculated, like he was on watch. I acted like I was checking my tires, then walked a slow circle around my rig. Got a better angle. Couldn't see his face, windows were too dark, but I got the plate this time. Texas tags, 2JX-H72. I texted it to myself. I didn't want to assume anything. Hell, maybe he was waiting on a buddy. Maybe his card didn't work and he was stuck. But I've sat in enough stakeouts to know when someone's not just passing time. I climbed back in the cab, fired her up, and eased out the lot. Didn't floor it, didn't make it obvious, just rolled out like any other driver with somewhere to be. Got back on I-20, westbound again, eyes flick into the mirrors every few seconds. About 3 minutes later, sure enough, here he came, black Ram, 2 cars behind, then 3. Keeping distance, never tailing hard, just enough to be there. Could have been coincidence. That stretch is all straight line, no exits, no turns, but it didn't feel like coincidence. Around mile marker 50, I took a shoulder glance and saw him drop back and exit onto a farm road. No blinker, just peeled off like it was always the plan. Could have been headed home, could have been testing me, I don't know. I kept going. Hit the Petro near Balmorhea around dusk, pulled in for my 10-hour break. Got a chicken sandwich that tasted like regret and sat on my step eating it while the sun bled out behind the horizon. Nothing fancy, just another end to another hot-ass day.
Still, I couldn't stop running the numbers in my head. Someone had planted that cardboard. Someone who either knew trucks or was dumb lucky. And someone who maybe, just maybe, was now trailing me through West Texas in a black Ram. Or maybe I was losing it. You go too long without sleep and your brain starts playing tricks. But I wasn't new. I knew what paranoia felt like. And this didn't feel like paranoia. This felt like a plan slowly taking shape. I slept like hell that night at the Petro in Belmaria. Cab never cooled down right, even with the APU running full blast. The heat hung in the air like wet wool, and my head wouldn't stop chewing over that black Ram and the cardboard incident. I kept waking up thinking I heard footsteps near the cab, but every time I peeked, there was nothing but cicadas and distant rigs humming in the lat. Still, I locked the doors and wedged the crowbar across the floor just in case. Call it a habit from back when I used to haul electronics through Memphis. Pulled out just after sunrise. Sky was already bright orange and buzzing. I skipped breakfast, didn't even bother with coffee. I just wanted to make El Paso and drop the load. After that, I could regroup, maybe hit up a buddy from Lubbock who used to be a mechanic before he started driving. Show him the cardboard, talk through the temp spike, see if maybe I was connecting dots that didn't go together. I was rolling smooth through that wide-open stretch past Kent. Not much traffic, nothing but dust devils dancing along the fences. I was finally starting to breathe again when I caught something in the corner of my eye. Another bump in the temp. Just a little one. Same needle rise, not enough to pull over for, but enough to raise the hairs on my arms. And it was the same damn thing. Steady. Not climbing fast, not bouncing. Just a lazy creep upward like it was stretching its legs. I told myself it might be leftover stress on the system. Maybe some crud got pulled into the radiator from yesterday's jam. Still, I made a mental note. Next stop, I'm getting under the hood no matter what. I rolled on another 20, 30 miles, then swung into a little independent truck stop on the south side of Van Horn. Not one of the majors, no chains, no rewards card nonsense, just a beat-up canopy, 2 diesel islands and a taco stand in a rusted-out trailer. I pulled in, shut her down, and popped the hood before even grabbing my gloves. Radiator looked fine at first glance. Hoses weren't bloated, nothing was leaking. But then I leaned in closer and saw it. This time it wasn't a big sheet like before. It was 2 strips, maybe 6 inches wide, shoved in deeper, just above the fan belt. Angled like someone knew how the airflow worked.
They looked like they'd been cut from the same cardboard as the first. Plain brown, maybe from a box of bottled water or motor oil. The edges were damp from condensation, but not soaked yet. I stood there for a solid minute, hand on the frame, heart thumping behind my ribs. This wasn't some second fluke. This was methodical. This was someone who'd been near the truck again, after the Loves, after Pecos. And that narrowed the window real damn tight. "Need a hand?" a voice behind me said. I turned. It was a guy, maybe mid-40s, stocky, grease under his nails, wearing a jumpsuit with the name Luis stitched crooked over his chest. "Just checking for trouble," I said, trying to sound casual. He walked over and looked into the engine with me, didn't touch anything. "You overheating?" "Got some blockage yesterday. Didn't expect to find more today." Luis frowned, bent slightly, squinted in. "This ain't wind damage," he said. "Someone planted that." I nodded, already knowing it. "You got enemies?" he asked. Not nosy, just plain. "Not any I know by name. People do dumb stuff for dumb reasons," he said, pulling out a rag and wiping his hands. "You want me to take a closer look?" "Nah," I said. "I got it." He didn't push, just gave a little nod and walked off toward the garage. I yanked the strips out, threw them in the trash behind the taco trailer, and washed my hands at the outdoor sink that ran more rust than water. While I stood there drying off, I started thinking about when someone could have gotten under the hood. I locked the doors, always, but the hood itself? That's not keyed. Anyone with 2 good hands and 30 seconds can pop it from the front if they're bold enough. They must have done it while I was inside the truck stop yesterday. Or maybe while I slapped. That was the worst thought. Someone getting that close while I was knocked out, sweating in the sleeper. I went inside, grabbed a cold bottle of water and a cheap breakfast taco that tasted like it had been under a lamp since last Christmas. Sat at the little plastic table by the window and tried to play back the last 2 days in my mind like security footage. No fights with lot lizards, no disputes with yard guys, no aggressive drivers or weird CB chatter. Just that damn ramp. I pulled out my phone, opened the notepad where I'd saved the partial plate, TX2JX-72H. Ran a Google search just for the hell of it. Got nothing, of course. You don't get DMV info from Google. But it made me feel like I was doing something, even if it was pointless. I finished the taco, climbed back in, and sat with the door open, letting the heat bake in. I stared out over the lot. A couple trucks rolled through. Some teenagers were unloading a flatbed near the back, cussing loud about straps and bungees. Then I caught movement. Quick, flash of dark color. At the edge of the fuel island, a truck, pulling out. Black Ram. Couldn't see the plate. Couldn't see who was inside.
But the timing, it hit me in the gut. I didn't chase, didn't do anything. Just watched it disappear onto the feeder road heading back toward I-10. Part of me wanted to stop the pedal and follow, but I knew better. I'm not a cop. I'm not a brawler. And I still had a rig full of freight that had to make Phoenix by morning, or I'd eat the penalty. I wiped the sweat off my face, checked the coolant again, and climbed back behind the wheel. Fired her up. Temp was back where it should be. Fan kicked on strong. But I didn't feel better. I rolled out of that place slow, like the heat itself was dragging me back. Only thing I knew for sure at that point was this. Whoever it was, they weren't done yet. After Van Horn, I made a choice. No more stopping. Not until I hit the drop yard in El Paso. I had about 120 miles to go, straight shot west on I-10. And I figured if someone was tailing me or waiting for a chance, I wasn't gonna give it to them. No rest areas, no shoulder brakes, no slow fuel ups. Just drive. The truck was holding steady. Temp gauge finally back to where it should have been. And I had both eyes flipping between the road and the mirrors, like I was waiting on something to jump out of the dark. The desert looked like it was breathing. Heat waves came off the pavement like smoke. You could see every shimmer of it bend in the horizon. Nobody around but a couple tankers way up ahead and some compact car falling behind me. That stretch of I-10 feels like the world's been scraped clean. You pass maybe one off-ramp of 20 miles, and they ain't more than dirt roads and maybe a busted-up shack with a rusted satellite dish leaning sideways. It's the kind of place that can swallow you up if your luck runs out. Hour into the drive, I felt it again. A stutter in the acceleration. Real subtle, like the engine coughed. No warning lights, no alarms, just a hiccup. I leaned forward, stared down at the gauges. Oil pressure was fine, RPMs were steady, fuel was good. Then the temp needle twitched. Not much. A hair to the right. Not panic level, but enough to start that sweat running again down my back. I turned off the AC, cracked the window, let the blast furnace outside slap me in the face. Less load on the engine, maybe buy myself some breathing room. I checked the mirrors again. Still no Black Ram. Nothing but sun and distance. 15 minutes later, the temp spiked. This time fast, like someone twisted a knob. It jumped from normal to dangerous in under a minute. The red warning light on the dash blinked once, then twice, then stayed on. Then I smelled it. Hot coolant, metallic, bitter. That smell that tells you something's about to fail. I scanned the roadside. Nothing but dirt and barbed wire. No shade, no shelter, no damn signal. I pulled over quick, not slamming the brakes, but easing her down. Got onto a patch of dry shoulder with barely enough room to clear the lane.
Killed the engine, climbed out, and the heat hit me like I'd stepped into an oven with the door shut behind me. Steam hissed from under the hood as I popped the latch. Radiator cap was whistling, but I knew better than to touch it yet. I let the pressure bleed off slow.
I knelt down, checked into the grill, and sure enough, there was something jammed in there again. This time it was worse. Folded cardboard, 2 layers deep, crammed so tight you couldn't see it unless you were looking for it. The edges were wet, dark from the heat and airflow. Someone had planted it just right to look like part of the radiator shroud. I cussed, loud, kicked at the dirt. My shirt was soaked through in minutes, and the sun was bouncing off the hood like it was trying to blind me. I pulled the cardboard out barehanded, burned my knuckles doing it, then chucked it as far as I could into the scrub. My hands were shaking, not from heat, from the fact that someone had gotten to me again. And this time, they damn near did the job. Then I heard it. Gravel crunching. I looked up, and there it was. A black ram, maybe 100 yards back, pulled off just behind a little rise on the side of the highway. Just enough to not be in my mirror until I was already stopped. It rolled forward slow, smooth, like it had all the time in the world. No rush, no noise, except for the crackle of rocks under the tires. I didn't move, just stood there, hood up, fists clenched, pretending I didn't see it. The truck stopped about 20 feet behind mine. Driver's door opened and a man stepped out. Bowl cap low, sunglasses, gray shirt with sweat stains. Nothing remarkable, just one of those faces you'd forget 10 minutes after seeing it. He didn't have a weapon that I could see. Just stood there with his hands on his hips looking at my rig like it was some kind of puzzle he was working out. "You all right there?" he called out. His voice was calm. Not friendly, not aggressive, just flat. Like he could have been asking about the weather. "I'm good," I said, not moving. "Truck give out on you?" "Overeating." "Ah," he said, and nodded like it made sense. "This heat'll do it." I didn't answer. He took a step closer. Not fast. Just one of those casual steps, like a guy approaching a stray dog. "Want me to take a look?" he said. "No," I said. "I got it." He stood there a second, then smiled. Not big, not warm, just a little curl of the lip like he was trying it out. "Well," he said, "you be careful out here. Ain't much around for miles." I noticed. Then he turned, walked back to his truck, climbed in, and pulled back onto the shoulder, tires throwing a little dust as he went. No hurry, no burnout, just gone. I waited till he was a speck on the horizon before I moved. Grabbed my phone, no bars, not even a flicker. I dumped the last of my water into the radiator after it cooled down enough to open the cap, then sealed it back up and crossed my fingers. Climbed in, turned the key, and prayed she'd turn over. She did. Barely. I limped her the next 40 miles to El Paso, hazard lights blinking, every mile feeling like it might be the one that finally cooks her for good. No more ram in the mirror, no more cardboard. Just a head full of static and a rig that sounded like it'd been through a war. By the time I pulled into the yard, I was cooked through myself. Dispatch asked why I was late. I didn't answer. I just dropped the paperwork, grabbed my duffel, and sat on the bumper till the sweat stopped coming. It took a while. Next morning, I was still sitting on the bumper when the sun cracked over the El Paso lot like a busted egg. Didn't sleep much, just leaned against the reefer unit with my eyes closed, trying to slow my brain down. I kept seeing that guy's face, or what little I'd seen of it, the way he stood by his truck like he was waiting for a punchline. Calm as hell, like I was some stray dog he'd chased into a corner and now just wanted to see squirm. I got up stiff, went into the shop where the yard contracts their repairs, told the guy behind the counter I had overheating and needed a coolant check. He looked like he'd been chewing sunflower seeds for 20 years straight. Name tag said Troy. He walked out with me to the truck, popped the hood, poked around while I stood there watching. "Fan's working," he said, "but you've got some cooked residue on the intake. Something blocked airflow. Ever seen cardboard stuck in a radiator?
I nodded once. He looked up. "You pull it out?" "3 times," I said. His eyes narrowed like he wasn't sure if I was joking. "You pissed somebody off?" "I don't know. Feels like someone's trying to fry this engine on purpose." He scratched his chin. "Well, you're lucky. Another few miles and you might have cracked the head. These Cummins will fight for you, but they'll only take so much." I pulled out my phone and showed him the plate I'd saved. "You know a way to run this, quiet-like?" He didn't even look at it, just shook his head. "You want to play detective? Call the cops. I just fix things." I didn't blame him. Most guys in his position don't want the headache. Liability, drama, paperwork, it's not worth it for a stranger passing through. I left the truck in the bay and walked to the diner across the street. Got a booth by the window, ordered eggs over hard and rye toast. Coffee came in a cup that smelled like old burnt beans, but it was hot and did the trick. The waitress was polite, maybe in her 50s, wore a name tag that said Connie and called me sweetheart like she'd been doing it forever. She came back with my plate and said, "You look like you've been chasing ghosts." "Close enough," I said. She gave a little smile, then walked off without asking questions. Sometimes people know when not to pry. While I was eating, I saw that same black Ram drive by. Real slow. Didn't pull in, didn't stop, just coasted past like he was checking something.
The tint on the windows was dark enough to hide a whole damn family, but I knew it was him. That sticker on the rear glass, the Joker card, still there. I pulled out my phone and took a photo through the diner window. Not a great angle, but enough to make out the plate. Same one. 2JXH72. I left cash on the table, walked straight back to the shop and told Troy I was taking the truck whether it was ready or not. He didn't argue, just handed me a printout with the fluids topped off and a note that he'd flush the radiator and check for leaks. I climbed in, locked the doors, and sat there with the engine running, trying to think. Then I made a call. A guy I knew from Amarillo, name's Cole Bennett. Used to haul flatbeds, now he runs his own little security outfit. Helps out drivers when things get dicey. Nothing official, nothing on paper. Just a guy with some tools and a lot of quiet friends. He picked up on the 3rd ring. "Go." "Hank, got a problem." "What kind?" "The kind with a black Ram and a cooked engine." He paused, then said, "Where are you?" "El Paso. Dropped a load this morning. Had 3 incidents, same pattern. Cardboard jammed in the grill. One guy keeps showing up. I got his plate." "Talk to the cops?" "No point. No cameras, no damage report. They'll file it under nuisance and tell me to keep driving." "You want me to run the plate?" "I do." "Text it." I sent it. A few seconds later, he replied, "Give me an hour." I didn't roll out. I didn't even leave the lot. Just sat there parked between 2 reefers, idling like beasts, keeping the cab cool, doors locked, coffee thermos full. My eyes were on the mirrors the whole time. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Cole. Guy's name is Mason Durrett. Used to work at a salvage yard in Abilene. Got canned 6 months ago for pulling parts off live units. He's got a sheet, nothing big, just trespassing, some threats, 1 DV from 18. Any connection to trucking? His brother used to drive. Got in a wreck outside Pecos a year ago. Blamed dispatch. Got blacklisted. Some noise online about big carriers putting independents out of business. Sound like a guy who'd sabotage a truck? I've seen less get set off by less. You need me to come down there? Not yet, I said. I want to try something first. Careful, Hank. Always. I hung up and thought for a long minute. Then I pulled out my old DOT vest, the bright orange one with reflective stripes, rolled it up, stuffed it under the seat, pulled out the dash cam cord from the glove box and hooked it up, angled it straight out toward the front. Then I made something I wasn't sure about. I drove half a mile up the road and parked in the dirt shoulder behind an old gas station that hadn't sold gas in 10 years. It had a busted out window and weeds growing up through the cracks, but it had one thing I needed,
a line of sight. I killed the engine, stayed low, and waited. Took 40 minutes. Then he came. Black Ram, same plate, same smooth drive-by. This time, he didn't keep going. He turned in, circled the empty lot, then parked 2 spaces over from where I'd been sitting earlier. I watched him sit there. 5 minutes, 10, then the door opened. He got out slow, walked up to where my rig had been, checked the grill, looked around, confused maybe, or pissed. That's when I climbed out, quiet as I could, crowbar in hand. He didn't hear me until I was 10 feet behind him. He spun, no weapon in his hand, just shock on his face. "Looking for something?" I said. He stared at me, then at the grill, and back at me. "You set me up," he said. "You've been messing with my truck. I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah," I said, "you do." We stood there for a second, heat between us, road noise humming in the background. I didn't swing, didn't threaten, just waited. Then he backed up, got in the Ram, and drove off. No words, no warning. I didn't follow. I just stood there, letting the heat do what it does, thinking how close I came to something worse. I took the truck back to the shop the next morning. No cardboard this time, no warning lights, but something still felt off. You spend that much time with a machine, you know when she's talking to you different. Troy was there again, already half under a Freightliner with a flashlight in his mouth. I waited until he rolled out before I spoke. "She's still running hot," I said. He looked at me like he expected as much. "You flush her yesterday?" I said, "Yeah. Pulled the last of the cardboard myself, but now the fan feels like it kicks in late, and the idle's off." He wiped his hands on his pants and nodded. "Pop the hood. Let me take a look." It was the kind of morning where the sun had barely cleared the yard fence, but was already cooking the air. I popped the hood, climbed out, and stood there while he ran through the usual, checked belts, spun the fan, leaned in to get a better look at the shroud. "Damn," he muttered. "What?" He pointed with the butt of a screwdriver. "You see that? Melted edge on the fan housing. Plastic's warped." I leaned in. It looked like someone had taken a heat gun to the lower corner of the shroud, just enough to throw off the airflow, bend it inward. "Could be from the cardboard?" I asked. He shrugged. "Or it could be someone stuck it there on purpose, ran her hot, let it melt, then pulled the cardboard after. Either way, that ain't factory." He kept digging, then stepped back and looked at me with his face like he was debating whether to say something. "You got more going on than just a prank, Hank. Whoever's doing this knows what the hell they're doing." I didn't say anything. "You file a report yet?" "The cops won't touch it, not unless there's footage or someone gets hurt. You got any?" "Footage, maybe," I said. "I ran my dash cam yesterday, but he didn't touch the truck that time, just scoped it." He nodded slowly. "Well, this kind of damage won't show up as sabotage. Insurance will call it heat stroke.
Maintenance will call it overdue service. Either way, you're the one eating the repair." And he was right. That's how this works. There's no line item for "someone tried to cook your engine like a brisket in the middle of Texas." It's all just heat, wear, and bad luck. By noon, he had the shroud replaced and the fans synced right again. Said I was good to roll, but to keep it under 70 until I could get a proper thermal scan. I signed the invoice, 500 and change, all out of pocket. This batch don't pay for what they can't see. You're an owner-op, everything is your fault by default. I parked the rig back in the yard, climbed into the office to log the trip and check future loads. Dispatcher was some young guy named Bryce, fresh out of college or wherever they dig these types up. Hair too neat, hands too clean. He looked up when I walked in like I was an unscheduled fire drill. "You're Hank, right?" "Been all week," I said, dropping the folder on his desk. He clicked through some tabs, frowned. "So, looks like you ran late on the Phoenix drop." "Truck ran hot, 3 times." Right, he said, not really listening. "Customer noted delay. We got docked." "Yeah, well, I got docked worse." He gave me that smile people give when they don't want to hear more. "We'll mark it in the quile." "That means something?" "Only if it keeps happening." I stared at him for a beat. It didn't happen. It was done. That made him pause. Like sabotage? Exactly like that. He leaned back, rubbed his chin. You got any proof? I tapped the dash cam in my vest pocket. Some, not enough to go to court, but enough to know it ain't a coincidence. He nodded like he wanted the conversation to be over. All right, well, I'll make a note. But if there's an ongoing issue, we might have to reassign some of your loads for now, just until we know what's what. Reassign? I asked. You think I'm making this up? No, I'm just saying we gotta protect the freight, Hank. I walked out before I said something that would get me kicked off the route. Back at the truck, I sat in the cab, engine off, windows down. El Paso heat poured in like a broken dryer vent. I stared at the steering wheel, thinking about the last few days, about Mason Durrett, about the cardboard, the heat damage, and now this, getting docked, possibly benched, all because some guy decided to make me his project. I made one more call. To Cole. You still tracking that guy? Mason? Yeah. After yesterday, I figured you might want to know he's back online. Online? He's in a few forums, small ones, driver chat boards, nothing public. I've been watching his IPs. He posted something an hour ago. What'd he say? Something like, another one down. These company dogs don't know what's coming. I didn't speak for a second. Cole continued. This ain't about you, Hank. You were just next. I hung up without saying goodbye. There wasn't anything else to say. I looked around the yard. Drivers moving like ants.
Day cabs pulling in, yard dogs honking, some new guy trying to back a trailer like it was his first time. All of it normal. None of it safe. I opened the glove box, pulled out the old notebook I kept for trip logs and dead drop notes. On the inside of the cover, I wrote Black Ram, TX2JX H72, Mason Durrett, El Paso damage, $532. Possible insurance denial, route penalty, 2 overheats, 3 insertions, 1 confrontation. Then I closed it and stared at the horizon, where the sun boiled off the edge of the asphalt. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. After that week in El Paso, I stopped running west through Texas. I changed my whole routing system. Set the GPS to avoid I-10 between Odessa and Las Cruces. Told dispatch I'd take Midwest runs, even the frozen ones up through Nebraska, just not the desert lanes anymore. They didn't ask why. I think Bryce already figured out I was spooked, even if he didn't believe the reason. Let him. I didn't need his belief. I needed distance. The truck ran quiet after the repair. Temp gauge stayed where it should. No new surprises under the hood. Still, I started checking the grill every single stop, even for coffee, even for a piss break, sometimes twice. Once I pulled into a rest area in Oklahoma and tore open the hood just to stare at the fan like it owed me money. Nothing was there. I still didn't trust it. That paranoia became habit, like brushing your teeth, just part of the routine now. I also started parking nose in when I could, up against fences, against walls, even once into a dead end at a Walmart lot. Anything to keep the front end unapproachable. Got funny looks from a few drivers. One guy in Kansas laughed and said, "What, you think someone's gonna shove a bomb up your radiator?" I didn't laugh back, just said, "Something like that," and went back to checking my hoses. I upgraded the hood latch, bought an aftermarket lock kit from a guy off an owner-op forum. Took me half a day to rig it. Doesn't stop a pro, but it'll slow him down. Added a second camera under the hood, wired it to the cabin DVR. Doesn't stream, but it records whenever the engine's off and the hood's touched. I haven't caught anything since, but I still review the footage once a week, just in case. What stuck with me most wasn't the damage or the money. It was that face, Mason Durrett, standing behind my rig, checking the grill like he was doing inventory, like I was just another part of some long checklist. He never even looked scared. That's what eats at you, when someone gets in your space, messes with your life, and walks away like it was nothing, like you're nothing. Cole kept tabs on him for a while. Said he stayed quiet after El Paso. No new posts,
No movement on his old forums. Might have backed off, might have picked another target. I never asked for updates after that. Figured if he wanted to find me again, he knew how. I never filed a police report. I thought about it.
Sat outside the station in Tucumcari one afternoon with the dash cam footage ready to go. But what would I say? Some guy kept sticking cardboard in my grill, made my truck overheat 3 times? You think they'd care without a body or a crash? Hell no. They'd nod, take a statement, file it under roadside incidents, and toss it in a drawer. And it wasn't just that. Deep down, I didn't want to admit that I'd let it happen, that a guy like me, been on the road this long, seen every trick and hustle in the book, had gotten played that easy. That's the part that stings. The damage under the hood, that you can fix. But once someone makes you feel hunted, that stays in the bones. It changed how I drive, where I sleep, who I talk to. I don't chat at truck stops much anymore. Don't shoot the breeze in line or hang around the fuel island. I keep my doors locked, even in daylight. If I see a black Ram, I take a picture. Every single time. Doesn't matter the plate, just in case. If that's paranoia, then so be it. This job doesn't reward trust. I keep the cardboard, the first one I found. It's folded up in a plastic sleeve, tucked into the back of my logbook. Dirty, warped, still smells a little like coolant and road grime. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe as proof, maybe as a reminder. Maybe because I need to know it wasn't just in my head. Every now and then, I still pass through West Texas, not on purpose. Sometimes a load drags me close. I see those same rest areas, those same empty exits, and I get that same feeling in my stomach, like the road remembers, like it's watching. There's no real ending to it, that's the thing. No justice, no big confrontation, just changes, just the way you carry yourself after. A little harder, a little quieter, and a lot more alert. I still drive, still haul freight, still watch the sun rise over parking lots in places nobody's heard of. But now when I park for the night, I don't sleep the same. I listen, I check, and before I start the engine, I always check the grill.